Championship Sunday is now set. We are down to 4. How did it all happen? A divisional round playoff weekend that saw the 49ers and Lions advance in the NFC, the Ravens and the Chiefs advance in the AFC, and one position that turns out still matters in the NFL. All that and more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love all the everydayers out there. Make sure you are subscribed up. We appreciate it. Helps the show tremendously if you do subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Tell a friend as well. Hit the thumbs up and all the buttons you can. And we're with you every day, and we love it. And today's always a fun one after a fantastic weekend of football, Matt. And let's start with the AFC. Let's start with the game that's freshest in my mind, which was Patrick Mahomes against Josh Allen. It was a close game. It was not the same type of game we've seen from them in the past in the playoffs, but it was the Kansas City Chiefs that do advance after a missed Tyler Bass field goal late. Not necessarily the only reason that game was lost by the Buffalo Bills, however. 27-24, the Chiefs are headed to the AFC Championship game once again. And Patrick Mahomes, just, what do you say about Patrick Mahomes? He's not at home this time, and he's already got a home in the Kansas City area, but his second home is the AFC Championship game, Matt.
Exactly. I mean, a bad year in Mahomes' career is losing the AFC Championship. I mean, that's a terrible, dreadful year for the Chiefs and Mahomes. We went to the AFC Championship and we actually lost. Wow. Brutal. So many things to take away from this game. I mean, some pivotal plays late, the quarterback matchup. First of all, it's noon here on the Eastern Coast, and I've seen some things already. Josh Allen will never win the big one. I can't stand that talk, to be honest with you. I mean, if we can say the same thing if Lamar loses next week. Like, folks, only one of these AFC quarterbacks can go to the Super Bowl every year, and it happens to be Mahomes quite a bit, by the way. It doesn't mean all the other guys are a bunch of losers. Keep hearing about, like, Herbert and Dak, and I understand that to some degree, but don't tell me Allen or Lamar can't win the big one. I mean, come on. Like, that kind of stuff makes me insane.
And there is always like Monday morning box score scouting as well. And I think that's going to come up in some of these quarterback stat lines for sure that happened over the course of divisional round weekend. And Josh Allen is one of those. He was 26 of 39 for only 186 yards passing and the one touchdown, 4.8 average. He was dealing behind the line of scrimmage, 16 of 16 on passes completed behind the line of scrimmage. Like, that was the game plan. That was the Bills had to do in this game. It really, and we're going to talk later on this week about things that the teams who were eliminated and continuing on into the offseason every day about the teams that were eliminated from the playoffs, what they have to do to get back there, to get over the hump. Clearly, downfield receiving weapons are needed for Josh Allen. You see that moon ball he threw. Unbelievable pass in that game that fell incomplete to Stephon Diggs, I believe it was. I mean, it's just like he's one of three, I don't know, one of one that could make that throw, like, in the world. And so it's not all on Josh Allen. Defense let him down. They got to go back to the drawing board, and it was tough because this was the Bills all-in season. This is, they've got a ton of, cap considerations. They're well over the cap, $50 million going into next offseason. So this was their best chance. Their kind of go for it year. And it didn't work out. And it was clear early in the year it wasn't going to work out. They got hot, but in the end, they ran into the Kansas City Chiefs, who it kind of seemed like it wasn't going to be their year either, but they found a way. And I really kind of go away from the quarterbacks here. As good as Patrick Mahomes was in this game, and we thought he might create with his feet, which he did, which is so hard to play against in the playoffs. And Patrick Mahomes has that extra ability in the playoffs to go superhero style and help his team to victory, but it was the defenses. The Chiefs had a better defense than the Bills in this game.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I just did for them, I guess it'd be for you too. I just did a radio hit in Vancouver about an hour ago, recapping games, and they asked me, of these teams, which ones are playing their best football of the year? Well, I think that's an interesting conversation across the board, but I think the Chiefs and Bills are playing their best football of the year. And Allen almost lost a fumble late. He was a little reckless with the football. Kincaid bats it out of bounds. Nice play, obviously. But you're right. The Bills did what they wanted. I mean, I am going to box score scout here for a little. They ran 78 plays compared to 47 for Kansas City. They ran for 182 yards. They possessed the football for 37 minutes compared to 23 for Kansas City. However, their lack of big plays and explosives doesn't compete. Yards per play, the Chiefs only ran 47 plays, but every time they snapped the football, they got 7.7 yards. Yeah. And they did lose the turnover battle, Kansas City, but it was only 1-0. And the missed field goal is the same as a turnover, or even more crucial late. I do want to throw 3 plays out there, though. The fake punt, everyone's killing McDermott for. What are you thinking? You're deep in your own end. Folks, you have 11 players on the field. They have 10. That's like a go-to. Like, if you see something like that, you check the fake punt immediately. I mean, unless it's like 4th in a million. So you had an advantage. You had a power play. That's not – that's something that all coaches will do,
It starts to go into the psyche. You see the Bills fans, and like they've been through this for –
I know. I feel for them.
Decades and decades and multiple generations. Like, it's just it's how it ends for Buffalo Bills fans. And sometimes you look at it and you can't even explain it. You're like, how come we can't get over that hump?
I know. And I really do feel for Bass in particular, of course, because he's been a good kicker. It's not quite like the Packers situation. And that fan base. I mean, I'm old enough to remember 4 Super Bowls in a row and you lose them all. You got to think, boy, this is our year. Kelly and Thurman and Andre Reed and Bruce Smith are ready. And then this one, you just lose heartbreakers to the Chiefs or in the playoffs time and time again. But real quick, the fake punt, I don't blame the Bills at all for. I do have a problem with the Chiefs with their red zone stuff anymore. I mean, they didn't play ring around the rosy before they did the Hardman play, but all their BS down by the goal line to me isn't working anymore, and it's not cute
who
anymore.
You want to put in the game, like you've got 9 different guys touching the football. At least Travis Kelce looked. Kelce looked good better in this game. He looked like he was hurt or something. People want to blame Taylor Swift or whatever. Like he's something was weird with Travis Kelce. Not even to mention all the rest of the weapons that the Chiefs had trouble figuring out all year long. But 5 for 75, the 2 touchdowns here, like Mahomes to Kelce when it came down to it, like they came up huge.
Yep, and it'll come up with your Niner game, it'll come up with the Raven game, but rest did a lot of teams well, but it also. The Niners and Ravens also started slow. They had like 3 weeks rest or 2 weeks rest instead of 1, but it did Kelce a lot of good to rest. And, but handing the ball to Mecole Hardman, who's 180 pounds and has never broke a tackle in his life on a goal line run. I mean, like, what are you doing, Andy?
And we've seen them be successful with some of these weird, like jet sweep type stuff and get wide receiver the ball in space and Jerick McKinnon. They've done well with those in the past. And I think that's why it gets more difficult because you put it on tape and teams expect some of that weird stuff down by the goal line. Yeah. But we were skeptical and really we kind of crushed the Chiefs at the trade deadline because they had an obvious need. And what they do? They went and got the guy they didn't really care to hold on to anyway. And Mecole Hardman at the trade deadline, he had, what did he have? He had 2 fumbles and he had more fumbles than catches in this game. Yeah. Right.
Why is he on the field ever?
1 yards. And like, that was not the thing you needed to do at the deadline. You didn't need another guy. You needed a dude, right? You didn't need a guy. You needed a dude. And they didn't get the dude. It didn't end up hurting him in the end. That could have been one of the big differences of the game. I got to ask you, Matt, what do you think about the rule? And there was reporting this morning that that fumble out of the end zone touchback rule might be changing in the near future. I do think you need to get penalized for it, but it's weird. It's kind of like the catch rule where it's like you get to finish the catch when you're out of bounds. Like, how does something out after the play have to do with what's happening during the play? Like, how could you fumble it 1 yard sooner and you just get the ball back where it went out of bounds? Like, you can't advance it anyway. So why does it matter where the ball goes if you can't advance it from where you are? Where the fumble happens in the field of play is what matters. How does that rule change because where the ball ends up, even though you can't fumble forward and gain yards anyway.
So we must have never talked about this because it's a trigger with me.
You know what?
Because
Okay, well, hold on.
all right,
Wait then if it's going to be that. And we got 4 games to break down here. Let's talk fumble. We're gonna talk kickers. We don't talk a lot about fumble rules and kickers on this podcast, but we're going to a little bit today. Tons to get to from all of these games. We'll wrap up Bills Chiefs next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. At the start of every new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. It's no different, really, than those teams that are eliminated in the playoffs. New season, what's the one move we can make that'll take our business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that all your success depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just some other job board. We're talking about LinkedIn. There's more. We're talking about 1 billion with the B professionals on LinkedIn already, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. In fact, so easy. 86% of small businesses get a quality candidate within 24 hours. And, you know, LinkedIn knows that small businesses wear so many hats and might not have time and resources. So it's intuitive at LinkedIn Jobs, quick, easy, tons of tools to help you find the right candidates to fill your positions. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Fumble rule. Matt, you are anointed NFL commissioner. What are you doing? You changing it? Doing anything at all?
Okay, so we'll have a 2-minute conversation and what could be a 20-minute conversation, and maybe we'll have that Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever. We got a lot of open time this week, of course.
Yes.
So I've been doing this a long time, and I'm not super innovative. I'm not special. I'm just a Joe average NFL analyst. But this is one I think I've been in the forefront, if not the first person in media talking about and hating this rule, because this goes back to my ESPN days. I mean, this is at least a decade of me complaining about this. And the short of it is this. My only problem with the rule is the defense didn't do anything to gain possession. You know, like, where do we hand the ball to the other team just because? You know, like, right. That's my big issue. Why does the defense get the ball? They did not deserve the ball. They never possessed it. So that, to me, is a fault in the rule. Now, the other part of it, again, there's 2 parts to this for me. That is what's wrong. And I know I can't fix it. I've never heard anyone, and in the last 10 years, 12 years, I've heard 9,000 suggestions, because every time we talk about this, someone says, well, try this, try that. None of them I think are good. So I have not heard the solution yet. And I can't come up with it.
The simple solution to me is don't have different rules. What's the rule for a fumble? You fumble, goes out of bounds, you can't advance it, right? So that's it.
But where do you mark it? And who gets the ball?
Where you fumbled it.
On the goal line?
If you're in the end zone, then you're in the end zone. It's a touchdown. If you're not, wherever you fumbled, it's where you fumbled it. That's where you get the ball.
I would be fine with that. I mean, anything's better than this.
You're not gaining any yards, but you're not giving up possession. That's too punitive for what the fumble traditionally has been, right? Yeah. And you know, so from there, you could find middle ground between those two things. You could say, okay, well, you take it at the old extra point spot, right?
Take it back to the 20.
Yeah, or take it all the way back to the 20. At least you get a chance to field goal. The 20 doesn't make sense either, because that's you lose 20 yards on a fumble. Right. That's weird. 5 yards, whatever. 1 yard line, just because you maybe a rule where you can't have it at the 1 inch line, but you can have it at the 1 yard line or whatever. I would put it the little, whatever. What is it, 2.5 yard line, right?
I just don't know what's different about than fumbling out of bounds. I mean, I had a buddy who was trying to be funny. He's like, well, the goal line's like nowhere else on the field. I'm like, it's actually like nowhere else on the face of the planet. But it
goes all the way around the planet. It goes all the way around.
Right. It's a special place. I get it. I mean, it's sacred ground, but the rule's wrong. There's no way the defense should get the ball.
Football gets so convoluted, and you have to know so much about the sport. I think simplify it even more. Like, ask a 10-year-old, ask someone who doesn't watch football. What do you think should happen on this play? this is what happens right here. What do you think should happen? Like, what makes sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Not with all this weight of your football life and knowing the rule and all. What makes sense to a normal person? Like, let's make it make sense. That's what my argument would be.
Ask 11 kids, and 8 of them will tell you, well, the offense should get the ball where they fumbled it. 3 of them will say, well, the defense should get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for.
Yeah. Okay. It makes as much sense as a touchback. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich makes as much sense.
Right, it does.
One thing I love about the rule is it makes people go absolutely nuts. Yeah.
I've calmed down on it because I know I don't know the answer.
I tend to
know it's wrong.
Chaos. And so, you know what? Don't change it. Why not? The Kansas City Chiefs will be facing the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game, Matt, and it was the Ravens who defeated on Saturday to kick off divisional round weekend the Houston Texans 34-10. It was tight. It was tight at halftime, and the Ravens pulled away, kind of, just reminded everybody's like, hey, good season, Texans. Way to hang on in this game, but we're the better football team. We're the 1 seed. I know we had some rest, but now we're ready to go in this football game, and this was our game, kind of as we expected. Really went exactly as we expected there with Ravens and Texans, and it is the Baltimore Ravens. Great season, by the way, by just first-time head coach, first-time quarterback, first-time offensive coordinator. I mean, just unbelievable what they've got going in there, and I know it doesn't feel like that on Monday morning for Texans fans probably, but of all the teams here, the loss you can feel best about in the playoffs is the Houston Texans and the way they're going right now.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think there is something to the Ravens and Niners both having so much rest. That doesn't take anything away from the first half Texans or the full game Packers, both of which teams are way beyond their years. Like they're ahead of script, but the Texans and Packers, without question, young teams, young quarterbacks. And Houston came out guns a-blazing. I mean, you talk about a ballsy script. They blitzed Lamar at like an obscene rate. Like time and time again, 70 or 80% of his dropbacks, he was getting blitzed. And people are fearful of blitzing Lamar. And I think it took the Ravens aback for a minute there. Like, whoa, what are these guys doing? And the scene wasn't too big for Stroud. The Texans have no running game whatsoever. And eventually the Ravens made their halftime adjustments and just took this game over on both sides of the ball. And we're clearly the better team and are, frankly, a dominant football team right now. And sort of like Allen, Lamar's line on Monday isn't that great, 16-22 for 152, but he was a superstar nonetheless.
Yeah, you go in halftime, like, oh, they're going to blitz us 70% of the time. Okay, well, we know that now. Here's some minor adjustments. We've seen it now for a half of football. Now we know what to do and combat that. And, it was a good plan. I thought, the Texans, you're playing against a better football team on the road. You're playing with house money. Go for it. Be aggressive. Blitz the heck out of it and do what you think you have to do to go win that game. They did not win that game. It's the Baltimore Ravens. I don't have a lot to add. Just that I'm super pumped up for Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is what we want to see, right? Like what most of the last half dozen MVP awards between these.
They got a couple between them. Yeah, I think of that.
The latest one that we'll find out about with Lamar Jackson. And another box score scouting moment here, because there's a lot of people after the game. Lamar Jackson, 152 yards. Right? It's like just like 100 yards rushing, right? Just leading rusher, leading passer, just like Josh Allen was for the Buffalo Bills. Doesn't tell the whole story when you look at the box score and you see his passing yardage and what he means to this football team, and just really complete, especially with Lamar Jackson playing the way he is and being healthy going into this thing. And this might be Lamar's year.
It certainly might be. I think they're the best team. That doesn't mean I'm going to even pick them or they can't lose to either any of these opponents coming up. But I don't care what Lamar's numbers are anymore. He's in total control. He was the best player on the field yet again in a divisional playoff game. Like, that's big stuff.
You mentioned the Packers. House money, ahead of schedule. I don't think they feel as rosy as the Houston Texans did because they let that one slip through their fingers against the 49ers Saturday. Let's get to the NFC side, and wow, the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, man, are in the NFC Championship game next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. NFL playoffs are here. Championship weekend upcoming. We got a couple of favorites. It's looking like early lines are saying the 49ers Ravens are favored in those championship Sunday games. You can get in on all of that action at America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And right now, new customers at FanDuel get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all you got to do is place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose on that first $5 bet. Live same game parlays. Find new bets in the new Explore tab at FanDuel. I love parlays. Go to the Parlay Hub, find popular parlays, build your own parlay, and those tasty draft props as well. More and more of those are coming and popping up there at FanDuel and tons of other sports. Every sport you can think of, you can get in on that action at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So you can be the best team on the field for 3.5 quarters, Matt, but you got to finish. And the story of Packers 49ers Saturday night was the Packers did not finish. And as bad as the 49ers played, whether it was the weather, whether it was rust, in crunch time, they made plays in the final 5 minutes of the game, including intercepting Jordan Love and including a 6 of 7 passing drive led by Brock Purdy to take the 49ers down and get the game-winning touchdown on a Christian McCaffrey run. Brock Purdy was bad, Matt. He, for the second time this season, the 2 rainiest games the 49ers have played, and there were so many similarities in this game to the Cleveland game earlier on in the year with Deebo Samuel leaving early. And I really think in both games, they were going to be Deebo games. So I think that affected Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy, this is going to dog him now. This is going to follow him for every game. 49ers fans are going to go, what's the forecast? Because he has trouble throwing a wet football, period. I mean, that's what we've seen now. There's been some other games with light rain that haven't looked like they've been a problem, but the Cleveland game and this game, which were the heaviest rains he's played in, the ball's coming out weird. And that's an issue. 65 degrees and sunny, by the way, in Santa Clara next Sunday. So that won't be an issue for the 49ers when we preview that game. Bad 49ers team for most of the game. They didn't fold. That's the big takeaway from the 49ers team. They didn't fold. This could have gotten away from them like it did with the Cowboys last week against the Packers. They needed a lot of help, though. And to me, when I watched this game, Brock Purdy might have the guts of a burglar to get out of there and continue to be making throws in the second half. So props to the 49ers for making plays at the end, but the Packers really let this one slip away, man.
Yeah. That's my exact take on the whole thing. Is there's certainly an art, a skill to winning games in this league. I mean, the Harbaughs and Belichick's and Tomlins, et cetera, and the guys that have been around the block that squeak out tight wins. It's not an accident. I know that the analytics folks will tell you 1-score games come back to the mean. I don't think they do with some coaches and teams that know how to win, particularly in the playoffs. And this will be a very, very valuable lesson for the Packers, as it will be for the Texans. And it could come down to maybe if you had a better kicker, we'd be talking about the Packers right now. But
missed field goal, dropped interceptions. Here's a stat to really drive home what that game really was like. The 49ers took their first snap inside the 25-yard line of the Packers with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the football game in the fourth quarter.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
They had 2 long touchdowns early. The only good throw Brock Purdy made in the first half of the game was a long touchdown pass to George Kittle. And there was a 40-yard touchdown run from Christian McCaffrey as well. And they didn't take a snap inside the 25-yard line of the Packers until 2 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game. The Packers, on the other hand, 6 of 8 drives, they were inside the 49ers 25-yard line. And in the first half, they came up with only 6 points. The 49ers made that one play, that touchdown pass, and were leading at halftime 7-6. And I mean, the Packers were better most of the game. And then the interceptions came at the end for
terrible love. It was a terrible interception.
Those last 2 drives, and especially the last play of the game, essentially. Rolling right. There's this video I saw of a side-by-side of Jordan Love and Brett Favre doing the roll right, throw across your body, throw an interception, linebacker cuts in front of the receiver. And it was identical. It wasn't similar. It was identical. It was pretty unbelievable to see what that looked like. And what's crazy about this, and look, we can't make sweeping, like everyone wants to say what Brock Purdy is right now, what Jordan Love is right now after this game. These are both of these guys, they're in their early 20s, their first full season, they're starters in the NFL. We don't know what they're going to be yet. But man, the Jordan Love's game was the scouting report coming out of college, right? With the turnovers, but like there's this upside here, and he's looked so good. It was pretty amazing how well everybody, for the most part, dropped interceptions aside, played on the Packers, and then just couldn't finish. And the 49ers couldn't do anything for 3.5 quarters, but they did finish. That was the story.
Yeah. I mean, the Love interception that you just described was horrific, but 98% of what he's done for the last 3 months has been tremendous. I mean, that's way more important than that.
Just tried to do too much, too. You have 2 timeouts.
Yeah.
It was just one of those, like, it's a learning moment. Yeah,
100%.
You hope that turnovers aren't a thing that continues to follow him from college and into his, his scouting reports and into the NFL a little bit early, but he'd been so efficient. And so, heartbreaking for the Packers that they thought this was the one.
And you summed this all up really well, but I thought I was going to be the Purdy prosecuting attorney, not defending attorney in this one. One other thing I thought that hurt him is I mentioned this on the Vancouver radio hit I just talked about, was the footing was so bad that his superpower is being an anticipatory thrower. I thought without Debo, and frankly, I thought McCaffrey didn't look like himself either. I mean, he was good, but he wasn't phenomenal. He's still fighting something.
Look,
but I thought, go ahead.
Keep going.
I was to say, I think Purdy's ability to fire that thing before they even come out of their breaks as an anticipatory thrower was also compromised, let alone the rain on top of it and all those things.
Yeah, if guys can't break, you can't anticipate their break nearly as well.
Right.
And we saw it on defense as well, guys falling down and just
all over
super wide open. Felt like affected the 49ers a little bit more, even though it was their
I thought the same thing. I was impartial and I thought the exact same thing. Yeah.
And
maybe their equipment guy needs to a little more blame,
It wasn't just that they played better. I thought the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan got outcoached. You lose Deebo Samuel in the first quarter, and after 3 quarters of the game, Christian McCaffrey only has 11 carries. You're Kyle Shanahan. You're Mike Shanahan's son. What we know about the 49ers, how they play, their roster, the Shanahan run game, and your quarterback can't throw the ball in the rain, and you only hand it to your star running back 11 times in the first 3 quarters. I don't know what was going on there. It was just all weird for the 49ers. And they were lucky to be in it, but they handled their business in the last 5 minutes of the game. And they snuck out of there with the win. And they're going to be playing that. The Detroit Lions are in the NFC Championship game. And this is fascinating because on the AFC side, you've got, a running backs don't matter committee for both of those football teams. And then on the NFC side, you got Christian McCaffrey and you got, a first round running back for the Lions with David Montgomery, a free agent running back. So the completely different builds for these teams. You guys, star first round quarterbacks. You got, the forgotten, the last pick in the drafts, and you got the castaway in Goff. 31-23, the final. Detroit Lions defeated those Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, another fun game, fun teams. I give the Bucs. We'll talk, off-season stuff later, but I give the Bucs all the credit in the world. I mean, this was the year that they were getting their cap right and the post-Brady hangover and far exceeded expectations. Mayfield and Evans had another phenomenal season. I think Bowles took a big step forward as a head coach, and you saw it here as well. The Lions are really fun, though. I mean, Goff's an easy guy to root for. I thought Gibbs was a phenom in this game. It seems like Laporta, now that he's healthy, and St. Brown, of course, aren't even worth mentioning every week because they're so consistent. It's always 8 catches, 10 catches, 100 yards, whatever. Right. I mean, they're just go-to guys and rock-solid young players. So my buddies mentioned this, which I just thought was hilarious, is Super Bowl's in Vegas this year. You're like, what if it were the Lions fan base and the Bills fan base in Vegas this year? Like, the world might explode.
I'd be worried about people's physical health.
Oh, long-term health. They're going to do irreparable damage. Right. I mean, imagine Bills Mafia and the Lions in Vegas for a week partying it up.
These two teams chucked it. 43 attempts for Goff. He completed 30 of them. 41 attempts for Baker Mayfield. He completed 26. The 2 picks, the big one there for Baker Mayfield. And look, I want to talk just for 1 second because we're out of time already. Quarterbacks obviously matter. We can argue if running backs matter. All of the teams that advanced, their quarterbacks made plays late in the game, and the teams that did not advance, they weren't able to make that last big play, interception, whatever it is, they weren't able to make the play. So that's huge. But kickers matter as well, Matt. We saw that in most of these games.
100%. So we got 2 really good games set up. I think the right teams are in it. I'm sure the Bills could argue, but I mean, there was 5 teams to me that are Super Bowl contenders. 4 of them are still alive. That's great. Give the Bucs all the credit in the world for keeping this thing close. Lions at home are awful tough, but now they got to go on the road.
Tons of time to break down all of those matchups in the AFC and NFC Championship games. We're going to get to your questions on Wednesday, as we do in the mailbag at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL on Twitter, or drop a question in the YouTube comments. And the coaching carousel is a spinning, Matt. I think we're going to have more news on Tuesday when we record. We've already got some coordinator action happening as well. Bears making a hire, and lots of rumors and lots of interviews out there, and probably more in-person interviews from some of the coordinators on teams that were eliminated now and can go to those face-to-face interviews around the NFL. All that and more coming up this week, every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network on Peacock and Williamson.